But here's the real story. 5 presidents for the Vietnam War. Starts with advisors sent by Eisenhower. Kennedy ups the game a little bit, more advisors, some troops on the ground, and it's just not quite coming together. Kennedy's assassinated. Johnson is not really an expert on the Vietnam War, by the way. He's not really been briefed on it. So the Secretary of Defense is Robert McNamara. And McNamara's telling him, we just do a little bit of this and maybe another 50,000 troops, or maybe we'll go do this and that. And eventually the United States dumps an unbelievable amount of resources into Vietnam. And that is largely credited with the reason that Johnson decided not to run, because he was so unpopular as a result of being the leader of this basically a true failure of American military power and of political power. And then Richard Nixon comes in, and Nixon's plan, by the way, from the get-go was to dump the war. He had already decided, he said, you know what, Johnson's hung with the war, I can just walk away and just say, oh, left that with Johnson. And he can't get the North Vietnamese, who are already got it figured out that they're winning the publicity war, the political war, to go ahead and do something. He couldn't get the North Vietnamese to do anything because they already figured, hey, we're already winning. Why should we make a deal when we're already ahead? So since they wouldn't make a deal with Nixon, again, working with McNamara and now Kissinger, people we still hear the names of, and they decide to embark on an increased military presence, but the idea was a little bit of shock and awe. We heard that during Desert Storm, just kind of a major military buildup. But the objective was not to win the war. The objective was to beat the North Vietnamese up enough that they would come to the table and reach some type of agreement. And so that didn't work out very well. So after about 3 years of the Nixon administration, engaging in these strange political approaches to a very serious situation, they abandoned the war, and Nixon resigns in disgrace over a matter that had nothing to do with the Vietnam War, has to do with a very, very silly situation, which is Watergate. And I might talk about, since we have so many young people here, I might talk about Watergate just for a minute. But he resigns due to Watergate. But he is the only F grade in the book. There are a couple that got close, but I just couldn't give him a passing grade, though, ironically, other than the Vietnam War and the fact that his moral compass was broken and he ended up resigning it due to scandal, actually accomplished some very interesting things during his administration. And I love to, since I teach business law, I love to point this out. I often ask, what far left liberal president signed the Environmental Protection Act and the Occupational Safety and Health Act? And of course it's a trick question, because Richard Nixon in 1970, 2 years into office, signs both OSHA and the other law, the Environmental Protection Act. So again, I don't know that people realize that, but that came out of a Republican administration. So in any event, Nixon resigns. He's number 4 in the Vietnam hit list. And the fall of Saigon, which many of you are familiar with because you may have seen the play Miss Saigon, which is the actual fall of Saigon, is under Gerald Ford, who was Nixon's second vice president, because Spiro Agnew, his first vice president, resigns under indictment for things that he did, corrupt things that he did while he was governor.